Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Anubis here with a brand new video for you guys today. Welcome to my channel, here on my sports channel. We call this Sport Talk, where once a week I get into a sport conversation. I know some people will prefer it's more than once a week, but hey, your boy he's pretty busy. I got more than one freaking channel. But today's episode of Sports Talk, I'm going to talk about the U.S. Women's National Team and their game against Portugal, and just overall the performance during the World Cup, as well as about the Tigers draft situation, trade situation from yesterday's trade deadline. Today's actually Wednesday. Usually record these videos on a Friday. I'll try to have this video up on Wednesday, so we're not too far separated between the trade deadline and when we had this conversation. But yeah, usually have my sport videos every Friday, or try to have them on Fridays. But today we're going to do one on Wednesday because there's a lot to talk about. I will try to also have timestamps. The first half of the video is going to be about the U.S. Women's National Team. The second part of the video is going to be about the Tigers. So if you're a Tigers fan, you're a Tigers stuff. I'll have a timestamp in the description or in the comment section where you can just jump right to the Tigers and ignore the entire women's national team thing, because maybe not soccer, maybe not women's sports. You do you. But let's start things off, because I do want to talk about the national team. I want to talk about Portugal's in the USA, but also about the ratings, because I feel like this is an important thing to understand, important thing to talk about. The U.S. Women's National Team is not playing as we expected them to be playing. They're not playing as good as we anticipated. There's a lot of talent. The team is just oozing with talent. Be it the forwards, midfield, the goalies, the defense. From head to toe, the team is driven with talent. So when you see that, when you see this team who has all this talent, and then they're not freaking performing at a high level, they only beat Vietnam by 3 goals, and they struggled every game since then, including they probably should have went home in that Portugal game. Like if when Portugal had a shot on goal that bounced off the post, if that ball was just an inch to the left, the USA is going home. Like, that's just that. And people were like, well, there's no such thing as luck in sports. So, maybe Portugal should have just made the goal instead of, having a lucky, bounce for the US side. Who cares? You can say that if you want to, but it should, highlight, just how serious it is for the US. And it's like, okay, so what's the problem? Well, the problem is in, not just the managing. A lot of people like to just go, Vlatko out, fire Vlatko this, Vlatko that. Yes, Vlatko has made some very questionable decisions. Some of the people who he left off the roster, people were questioning that his inability to do in kind of an intelligent substitutions. That's a problem. We had a game, I think it was against the Dutch. I think it was the game against the Dutch, where we had one sub the entire game, and that was it. He did use more subs in the game against Panama, but they were kind of like too little too late. We got Emily Sonner on and Alyssa Thompson on, the last 8 minutes of the game. It's just like stoppage time, 8 minutes left, and he's like putting Thompson and Sonnet, and it's like, you should have did these quicker than the last 8 minutes, especially when you have someone like Thompson who can be that spark of energy who could get you a goal. Like I was saying, it was like around the 70th minute. I was putting on Twitter. I think I said on Twitter, we should probably take Morgan off and put Thompson on. You can either have Thompson up in the middle, or you can put Trinity in the middle and have Thompson on the left side. The chance right there to score is going to be high, because both of them are fresh legs. Both of them are very, very talented. Try something. You need to win games. Trying to squeak by on draws isn't going to cut it. You need to win games. You got to make decisions that's going to lead you to winning games. That's not what happened. So the USA versus Panama was just, it should have been a wake-up call. I hope it was a wake-up call for not even just for like Vlatko, but for the women themselves. I love these ladies. Literally, when I say I love this team, my favorite sport is soccer, and the sport I watch the most is women's soccer. Like, I watch every single, when I say every single, I mean every single NWSL game. I have 5 screens. I have 2 computer monitors. I have my laptop right here, I have my cell phone, and there's also TV downstairs. If there's 4 games on, all 4 of those games are on in my room. If there's 5 games on, I'll get all 5 games on. I love women's soccer. I don't miss a single freaking game. I haven't missed the World Cup. I woke up at 3 a.m. to watch Canada lose. I woke up at 3 a.m. to watch the USA have a draw. Like, I love it. These players are some of my favorite players in all sports. My favorite player in soccer is Messi. My second favorite player in soccer is Christian Press. who is dealing with an injury, so she's not there. So just trying to say, 'cause I don't want people freaking like, oh, you don't even watch soccer, or you're just hating. No one's just hating on the team. And we're saying this a lot. We're saying this where like Heather O'Reilly came out and she made some comments about the team. People like, oh, Heather O'Reilly's a hater. Carly Lloyd came out and said some things, and she said Vlaco made some bad decisions. And she said that Morgan shouldn't start. It's like people are like, Carly Lloyd's a hater. It's like, they're not haters. They're saying the true things that we all think, because we've all been saying it, but we're now mad that they're saying it because they're foreign players. It's all fun and games when fans are like Vlaco out, things like that. But when a player says, stuff like that, it's like, oh, they can't say they're just haters. They're not haters. Heather Riley's a freaking legend. Carly Lloyd is probably a top 5 player in the history of women's soccer. There's her, there's Abby Wambach, there's Marta, and Mia Hamm, and got the whole solo in there as well. So it's like, you can't just denounce Carly Lloyd because you don't like her personally, because that's what a lot of it is. A lot of people don't like her on a personal level, so they just want to throw things that she says away. But everything that she said has been true. Like, literally everything Carly Lloyd has said has been true. And we as fans need to like stop hating her because she's saying things about players who we like, because a lot of her comments have been towards Alex Morgan, and Alex Morgan is the most popular player on the team right now, and everyone wants to freaking defend Alex Morgan and make sure no one's saying things negative about her. But this is what it is. When people talk about the word greatness isn't just doing all the good things. It's also being able to take the criticism. What makes LeBron James as great as he is that he hears all this criticism that he gets, and he still performs at a high level. When it comes to Sidney Crosby, he would get all these name calls. People call him a crybaby and all this stuff. He didn't start playing worse or do anything other than just keep playing. Ovechkin, same thing. Rodgers, Mahomes, Brady, all of them who are considered great players, they all just kept going. And Morgan, she does keep going. She's trying her best. We can say that she is trying her best. But you have to get to a point where you're a manager, when you're the coach. Do you make a choice that could benefit the team more so than waiting to see her get into the swing of things? Like, it's like, imagine you're a baseball manager, and you got a player who is on a slump. He's 0 in freaking 20 in the last few games, and he's batting 150, and it's like, do you send him down AAA, or what do you do? You have to make a decision, and that decision usually is send him down to the minors, let him figure out his mechanics. In this context, the thing that you do is you just don't start Morgan. There's a lot of talent on this team where you could just see what happens. See what happens by having Trent Rodman on the right side and having Lynn Williams in the middle and Sophie Smith on the left side. See what that looks like. See if that gets a goal. Because when it comes down to that game in Portugal, the best chance that the team had was Lynn Williams. Morgan had 8 shots and whiffed. But when it came to like who was actually close to making a goal, was Lynn Williams. So see what she can do there. And by all means, most people in that game didn't have a good game, with the exception of Germa. Germa was amazing. But so even with Lynn, she wasn't amazing, but she had the best scoring chance. Give or take. I say give or take because there was a chance later in that game when they subbed on Trinity Rodman. Rodman was wide open next to the post, and Alex Morgan had the ball. And Morgan doesn't even look up to even like acknowledge that she has a teammate who she can pass to for an easy goal, because all she has to do is just pass that ball and it's in net. So she tries to do the hero play. The hero play being you go for the goal, ignore your teammates. It's all about you, score. And so Morgan, she in this position, she tries to go for the goal instead of going for the pass, and like she did most of the game, she whiffed. So let's talk about some of the ratings. So looking at what the ratings are going on online, and they gave Alyssa Nair a 6, which I don't think Nair had a bad game. It was a draw. It was a clean sheet. So and yeah, there was the lucky bounce that went in the U.S. favor. But she still had a pretty solid game. So I don't know if I would say a 6 is a fair rate for her. Like I read the description for it, and like I'll pull it up for you guys. Like look at like here's the description for Woodnair. So like they acknowledged that she had a good first and second half. So they're like, yeah, she actually didn't do bad. Then they highlight it being the free kick that bounced out of play. The lucky bounce. So it's like, so you're gonna give her a 6 because of just one play. Like that's extreme. Yes, you could say 6 isn't terrible, but generally if someone's less than an 8, you kind of feel like they didn't do great. Then they gave Dunn also a 6. I feel like Dunn had a very good first half, but I think the second half, I feel like both her and Emily Fox kind of like disappeared, and probably not necessarily like their fault. It's probably more so some decisions made by Vlatko. But the first half, Crystal Dunn and Emily Fox were like all over the place, and not in a bad way, but that's all over the place. They were playing the way that they are kind of like asked to play, which is basically think of like Pep Guardiola's style of play, or the traditional way with Barcelona, where your left and your right backs are also like they're going from end to end, like they're also getting into the attack more just as much as they're on the defense. So Crystal Dunn, who can also play midfield, she started left back. She was getting going from end to end. She does a lot. Like if you watch Crystal Dunn play, you can get exhausted because she's just nonstop running. And so she has some good moments. There was one moment to me that was kind of like the bad one, which was she was getting close. She was in let's say Panama. She was in Portugal's end, and they were like close to the corner spot, and it was a 2v1, and she kicked the ball out of bounds instead of letting them do it for her. If she lets them do it, it's a corner for the USA. So it's like, you kind of wish that she won that situation in a point where, they kicked the ball out instead of her kicking the ball out. Their negative is that, she had the bail teammates out by covering a lot of ground at times. So why is she a 6 then? Like a lot of this doesn't seem like, they say she was neutral in the first, had a strong second, and built teammates out. So why does she get a 6? Because it sounds like she should have a higher than six, unless like if you really make it seem like the first half is like just that big. Even though, like I said, the first half she was actually pretty decent. Second half she was more defensive, than being from end to end like she was in the first half. And her balancing teammates out again. She always goes into midfield and then creates chances and things like that. I feel like this person. I don't say this. I don't want to make this assumption. I feel like the writer for this article. It isn't really, I don't want to say aware of Dunn's play style, but I feel like they don't fully know her play style. Like that's just what it comes off as. Then you have Julie Ertz, who they gave it a 6.5. It says even as a center back, she tried to find an extra outlet, but had no real targets for distribution. Distributed build-ups when needed, and it looks better on a bit higher off the line. And I've been saying this like the last 2 games, because the last 2 games they've played, they've had Ertz at center back instead of being in midfield. And I feel like that's because Vlatko wants to keep starting Andy Sullivan. Because Andy Sullivan plays the defensive midfield spot. Ertz also plays defensive midfield, so he wants to make sure that both Ertz and Sullivan are in the game. So he has really Ertz playing at center back, which will usually be in a spot for Alana Cook, who we haven't seen in the last 2 games. So if you ask around, people will say that they think Andy Sullivan's having a rough tournament, so they would prefer Ertz getting into that center defensive midfield spot over Sullivan. And just like when I said, when it comes to Crystal Dunn, she is going to try to to get off in on the offense. And you can also say this is kind of like the issue with the team overall, is that there's so many people who are trying to score instead of people who are trying to create goals. And this is like the big issue for the midfield. Lindsay Horan is trying to score goals. She's not trying to create a play where someone scores. Rose Lavelle, yes, Rose Lavelle's definitely going to be trying to create something for people to score. Savannah DeMello, love her, but she also has kind of like that same attack first mentality as Lindsay Horan, where she more so wants to score goals than create goals for the forwards. So then we have Naomi Gurma, who they gave a 7, and the article is titled that she was like the lone bright spot. She did great. There was like some moments where it was a little rough, but she did have a great game. I feel like a lot of these scores, are a little more brutal than they need to be. Like I would say Ertz is probably a 7. Grumman's probably like an 8.5 or 9. Dunn's probably an 8. Fox, I probably say was a 7. They highlight her having some miscues with Lynn Williams. But I feel like she had a good game. Like it wasn't a bad game for Lee Fox. I do feel like the fan base gives Fox a lot of hard times. Like I'm always seeing people on Twitter give Emily Fox like a lot of heat. And it's like she does pretty good. Like, but again, when it comes to like fan reactions to any sport, it's all about favoritism. When someone who's not their favorite player, is in, then it's like, oh, that's the reason why we lost, is that person right there. They're the problem. But when it's a favorite player and they're struggling, it's like, oh, it's not their fault. That those chances aren't easy, and the midfield's not creating for them and things like that. I think Fox has been doing pretty good, and people should give her more credit. This is where things get a little spicy, because this is where the midfield comes in, and they get the midfield 5s. And again, these are rough scores. Is it deserved though? I would say in this particular situation, Andy Sullivan, like I said, people have been saying she's been struggling. I agree, she has been struggling in the last 2 games. I do think a 5.5 is probably fair. I could even say that you don't need that like the half. It's been rough for her. But I feel like it's been rough because I feel like everyone else is playing at a style offensively and defensively to where the US's current style of a defensive 4-3-3 isn't really working. Roosevelt had a pretty, I won't say decent game, but she was trying. I feel like what Rose's game was, it was a game of trying. She had some miscues where she was being very aggressive and making some sloppy defensive decisions that led to her, getting a yellow card. But outside of that, all I saw with Rose was that she was trying to make an effort. She was trying to create shots for Morgan and Sophie Smith and Lynn Williams, and it's just it wasn't working out. So I will say she deserves at least a 6 for that effort. And then Lindsey Huron, 5 is fair. Then forwards, this is where things get a little spicy for me, because personally, I think Morgan should be a 5. They gave her 6. I feel like it's because it's Alex Morgan. They probably also gave her 6 because she was like, she had 8 shots. They're like, oh, the team had 17 total shots. 8 of those was Alex Morgan. Let's give her some more credit. But I think it was so sloppy, a lot of ball hogging. There was one moment in the game where Alex got the ball, and they're like, I want to say midfield, damn near midfield, and then she just boots it, and it's like not even towards the goal. Like it seemed like it was like a trying to just do a deep pass. It's like there's no one, like that ball is going to Mars. Like I should have had like some kind of like setup to where I can like show a simulation where it's like, no, we probably can. As the gamers would say, it's time for paint. So let's say this is midfield. Alex was like right here, and like let's say Sophie Smith was over here, Len was over here. They had Portugal, I think, just had a chance. So like this is just basically like a attempt to counterattack. Alex goes for a pass, and that pass is like over here. And I was sitting here watching the game like, who is she passing it to? Like Smith is fast, like she's fast. But by the time the ball got here, it was like right here. It was just way off. It was way off. It was just rough. As for Smith, I would say, to me she was very similar to say Rose Lavelle, where it's like she was trying. Like it wasn't a great game for her. I think a 6.5 is probably fair. I'll probably go with a 7. She was trying. She definitely had a strong first period. There was some questionable defensive moments, but there was a lot of effort. And when you're not really getting a lot of chances created for you, because again the midfield wasn't really doing much to help out the forwards. She didn't have a lot of chances. The same thing happens like Lynn Williams. She didn't have a lot of chances. When she did have a chance, she looked very strong in it. I would say Lynn Williams was definitely like a 7.5 in my opinion. And it's like, you know, it could have been better overall from the forwards. They get the substitutions. They like Trinity and Emily Son and both got NAs because they pretty much didn't even get a chance to play. Same thing when it comes to like Les Thompson and Kelly O'Hara. You know, they didn't really get a chance to do anything. Like they got put in the game too late. Rapinoe came in. I think 5.5 is, if you want to give Alex Morgan a 6, you got to give Rapinoe like damn near the exact same grade, because I think Rapinoe had a better game than Morgan did. The thing about Rapinoe is towards like I want to say like maybe 10 minutes after she got on, this is a true statement. You know, she did start to get like pretty poor. In any kind of energy she had to get, because in the beginning she was on fire when she first got in. Been like about 10 minutes later, that all kind of did fade. Trinity, she did have an impact. I wouldn't say she didn't have enough time. Like they said, she had enough time to make an impact. There was a moment where she got on, and it was like, see, if we had this before, there might have been a goal already. You know, and same thing when it comes to Thompson. When Thompson got on, it was like, if she was on a little sooner, we probably would have scored. And it's like, it's just rough. They gave Vlad all 5 when it comes to like, you know, him. So it's just like, you know, what do they do? Where do they go from here? How do you know, have a better team? You know, because that's what we all want. We all want the team to succeed. We all want the team to, you know, play better. And, you know, they should use Heather O'Reilly's words and Carly Lloyd's words, and, you know, the fans who are, no pointing out, you know, that we're not happy about the results, as motivation to do better. And if you're Vlatko, you do need to make a choice, and you gotta have that ballsy decision to be like, you know what, next game we're starting Lynn at center forward. You know, next game we want to have Sophie left, Trinity right, Lynn up front. You know, next game we're going to try having Ashley Sanchez in middle. We're going to go more attack instead of defensive. So we're going to go with the attacking 4-3-3 or the CAM instead of a CDM. So we're going to put Ashley Sanchez in at that CAM spot with Rose on the right and Lindsay on the left, or you could go Lindsay in the middle with Sanchez on the left. Either of those work. It's just you're doing something. You know, then you put in a lot of Cook and a center back spots where you can have Julie Ertz as someone who comes off the bench in case you need her and you need to go back to a defensive 4-3-3. You know, it's just decisions to make. That's all it is. It's just making these decisions that can lead to better offense. You should try it. You know, like, you're going to the knockout stages. You got to try something. That's it, because what you're doing has been working. You need more offense. That's what this team's lacking. This team's lacking offense. You know, Nair is barely getting any attention in terms of, which is good. You know, that means the defense is doing a decent enough job to where she's not worried too much. You know, Germer is Germer. She's gonna do what she's gonna do. Again, you know, Emily Fox has been fairly solid. Huerta, who, you know, usually starts at right back, you know, she's there. What should you start Huerta? Maybe, you know, I would, but, you know, again, Fox has been decent, so it's like, until she plays herself out of the position, and you need to really change it. You know, that's kind of what you will look at, is like, who's playing themselves out of their spot. Morgan has played herself out of that starting spot. You should make that change. Annie Sullivan has played herself out of the starting spot. Make that change. You know, Lindsay Horan, she had one off game, so you don't need to change that. Crystal Dunn, kind of the same thing. We don't necessarily need to change it. You know, you could, but I feel like her energy and what she brings, being able going from end to end, is just such a good thing. So it's not rocket science. You know, it's just those few things where it's like, have someone else start at striker over Alex Morgan. You know, you could. I saw someone say, I think it was Carly Lloyd. Carly Lloyd's one who said this. Carly Lloyd said what they should do is have Sophie Smith play middle, and then have, you know, Lynn Williams on the right and have Trinity on the left. That's not really a bad idea. Now, if you don't want to, you know, give Ellis Thompson like a starting spot, because, you know, she's, you know, 18 years old, you could go with Carly Lloyd's, you know, thought process of Smith middle, Robin left, and then Williams on the right. You could do that. You know, you gotta try it. You gotta try something, because currently the offense isn't there. So let's talk about the Detroit Tigers and talk about the trade, because the trade situation with the Tigers. Oh boy, you want to know what it's like to be a fan of the Detroit Tigers? That everyone in sports got to witness what it's been like to be a Tigers fan ever since Jim Leland left. Because that was embarrassing. Scott Harris probably should hire a GM. Tigers don't have a GM. Scott Harris making all the decisions. Maybe we need a GM. I don't know what happened with Erod. Supposedly Erod has a 10-team no trade clause, or like a list of teams he doesn't want to get traded to. But we still had a deal in place with the Dodgers. A lot of people are confused. Like, okay, so if Erod has a no trade clause, and if you know that he has a list of 10 teams, why did you not contact him and say, hey, give us a list of 10 teams you don't want to go to? We can, make sure we're talking to the other teams who aren't one of those 10 teams to make a deal. It's like, if he says he's not interested in the Dodgers, why are we making a deal with the Dodgers? Like, it's just it's confusing. Cause it's like something has to give in that conversation of, did they know he didn't want to go to the Dodgers and chose to still try and push to the Dodgers? Or did they not know he didn't want to go to Dodgers until afterwards? So they told him, like, hey, I'm going to Dodgers. He's like, no, that's my list. Like, the communication wasn't there, and that's embarrassing. You feel like a professional sport team would have communication with their player to know exactly what teams they don't want to go to before they get on the phones, before the trade deadline. The Tigers couldn't do anything because right after it came out that he waived his no trade clause. There was only maybe 40 minutes left in the trade deadline. So it's like they don't have enough time to freaking get on the phone to other teams. If you're other teams, you're like, hey, we called you about Erod, you told us no, so no, because if you're the team, at that moment, the Tigers lost all leverage. The second he waived no trade clause, they lost every single bit of leverage that they could have had because there's no time. They had to go talk to their scouts, say, okay, what prospects on this team who we could go for? Hey, can we get back on the phones with the Warriors and get on the phones with Boston? Because supposedly he wants to go. He was okay. We're going to Boston. We come in and talk to the Reds. Like, it's just not enough time on the clock to figure it out. And it's such mismanagement of the deadline. And then you had the whole situation with Michael Lorenzen, which that was fine. Maybe we should. My reaction to it, because I was in the middle of my live stream on Twitch, my reaction was like, did we only get one player for Lorenzen? It's like I was thinking that we would have got more than one player. And sure, it's the top 5 prospect from the Phillies, but even he's not part of the top 100 for MLB. So he might be top 5 for Phillies, but he's not a top 100 for the entire league. It's like, okay, so did you get more than just this one player? And we didn't. It was a straight up trade for trade. Lorenzen made 2 month rental to the Phillies for an infielder who's 20 years old, who's in high A, and it's like, okay, so we're not gonna see this guy for probably 2 years, potentially. We're not gonna see this guy for 2 years. And personally, I'm fine with the trade. Like, yes, I do hope we would have wished we got more than just one player, but I'm overall actually kind of fine with the trade. I've been going back and forth from Twitter with Tigers fans, because Tiger fans are Detroit fans. Detroit fans are irrational. They don't really think about any situation. They kind of vomit at the mouth of just nonsensical takes and things that doesn't involve really any real processing. I think both teams won the trade. I think the Phillies got what they wanted. Tigers got a prospect who by all metrics seemed like he will be a good player if he pans out. And from what's been said, he is primarily a second baseman, but he can also play pretty much anywhere on the infield, which the Tigers love that versatility. We see it with freaking Andy Ibanez, who is generally a third baseman, but we have a habit of putting him in at freaking left field, at shortstop. McKinstry, same thing. McKinstry, we put him at left field, we put him at right field, we put him at second base, put him at freaking third base, put him all over the place. So that versatility, the Tigers will definitely appreciate and like. You can put a Haas at freaking outfield. He's just primarily a catcher. So, but the fans out there who are upset about it, you have to understand this when it comes to why that trade happened. Michael Lorenzen is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. The Tigers are not going to bring him back. There's no plans to. There was zero plans, zero speculation, zero rumors of him getting a new contract. There's no plans on bringing him back even at the end of this season. He got a 1-year deal. He's been having a decent season, not even a great season. He's having a decent season. It's better to get something for him than let him walk for nothing. We got something for him. Like, this person could pan out to be someone who's really good. He might not. That's the risk of sports. Again, I say this a lot of Tigers fans. There's people who are upset, like pissed off when we traded Daniel Norris for Reese Olson. Straight up, Reese Olson's kind of panned out. He had some struggles in his last few starts, but for the most part, the metrics right now on Reese Olson is, hey, this guy's pretty freaking good for this. This kid's solid. But y'all hated the trade when it happened. It's like, be patient. Like, you don't know what you got until you see what you got. And especially when it comes to a player who's not going to be on the team again or next year. We ended up getting Norris back like a couple years later. And then he wasn't very good. So we were like, all right, never mind. It's like, you gotta get something for him. The Erod situation is different from Lorenzen's situation because Erod's a better player than Lorenzen is. Lorenzen's probably going to be like the fourth or fifth guy for the Phillies, likely the fifth guy for the Phillies. So it's not like he's still going to be like their ace. So it's not, that's why they don't feel like they have to give up more than one person. It's like, hey, this guy's not going to be our ace. He's not even going to be our second guy. They can be our third guy. He might be fourth, maybe. At best, he's the fifth guy. I've even seen some Phillies fans say he might come out of the bullpen. It's like, damn. To us, it's such like just how big the talent gap is for the Tigers in the contender. Where our third, fourth best pitcher, if we want to go with that, is going to be like potentially a bullpen guy for them. People are like, well, he's an all-star. He's an all-star. You gotta remember this when it comes to baseball. Every single team gets an all-star. Every single team. Someone has to represent your team. Tigers chose Lorenzen. I don't think he wasn't voted in by the fans. It wasn't because he had a great season. The Tigers were like, all right, we got a representative, Lorenzen. Some fans think it should have been Alex Lang. Some fans think it should have been Erod. But Lorenzen was chosen. And I feel like it was on purpose. I feel like Lorenzen was chosen so the Tigers could like show the world, like not necessarily the world, but like the entire league, what Lorenzen can hold up. He had a good game at the All-Star game, so it's like, okay, his trade value went up because of that. Whereas like no one else would really benefited from it because their trade value wouldn't go up, or because the Tigers don't want to move that person because Lang might get a new contract. We're seeing Jason Foley look like he will be a great setup guy. I think that when the season ends, we're not bringing back Jason. I feel like we're going to run with Jason Foley as being like our setup guy, with Lang being our closer. We're going to let freaking Jason Shreve and freaking Cesar walk. We're going to probably use someone from the minors to take or replace those two guys, because Tigers have a lot of freaking arms. Like this team, that's nothing about the Lorenzen deal. They're not hurting our pitchers. The Tigers have a lot of arms in the minors who can replace anyone who we let go in the off season and can replace Lorenzen. And again, think about our starters. Think about the fact we have Terrace Skubal, Casey Mize, he gets back from his injury. Erod, if he does decide to not his opt out, because that's the issue with Erod. Erod has an opt out at the end of the season. He says he loves playing for Tigers. We'll see how true that is when the all season happens. But again, so let's assume he doesn't use his opt out. Casey Mize, Erod, Terrace Skubal. Reese Olson has looked pretty good. You could say Reese Olson is good enough to be like your fourth or fifth guy. Then you also have Matt Manning. So again, let's put him in an order of potential rotation. Let's say Tarek or Erod is your ace. Both of them has shown that they could be that. Let's just say Erod number 1, Tarek number 2. Then Casey Mize number 3, Matt Manning number 4, and then potentially Reese Olson at 5. Or you say Alex Faedo number 5. The Tigers have a lot of arms. And even when it comes to like the bullpen, you could have Bo Bisquette come out of the bullpen. You could have Joey Wentz come out of the bullpen. It's like there's that options. Tyler Holton has looked pretty decent. He has some rough games as well, but again, he's looked decent. Tyler Alexander's injured. He's hit or miss. He gets a lot. Alexander is a guy who gets a lot of home runs. But anyway, we're talking about the bullpen. These aren't people who are going to start. It's just how your bullpen will look with a healthy Tigers team. Tigers are healthy. 2024. This is what it would look like with your rotation. We mentioned those, and now the bullpen. How would the bullpen look? You also got Will Vest, who showed some promise, but he's been injured. So it's like there's options here. It's not like Lorenzen is leaving the team. It's just this. Oh my God, we're going to be stuck in rebuild forever now because Lorenzen's gone. Because Lorenzen's gone. If we traded Casey Miles or Terry Skubal, then I'd be like, yo, what? Like, excuse you? We traded Skubal? We traded freaking Casey? Like, why? No, but Lorenzen is like, oh, okay, what we get in return? Oh, we got a prospect who could be something. Cool. And if he's not something, that's the risk of sports. So that's how I feel about the Tigers trade situation. Something should have happened with Erod. Personally, I prefer he stayed a Tiger. I think Erod's a good player. I enjoy seeing him in Tigers jersey. He's one of my favorite players on the team. I hope he stays a Tiger for the rest of his career. Personally, Erod, if you ever see this video, I'm a Tigers fan to you. I hope you stay a Tiger for the rest of your career. I want you here. And a lot of people do. Don't take the trade situation as fans want you gone, because fans don't want you gone. It was just some fans are just like, hey, he has an opt out. We might as well get something for nothing. And that's kind of what the thought is. Like, he has to opt out. He's gonna leave. Get something from him. But if you don't leave, then there's no fear. The fear is just the player leaving for free instead of the team getting to like recuperate something off of it. You're still a Tiger. That's how it is at the end of the day. But with all that said, as if this video, thank you for watching. Hope all enjoyed. Leave any thoughts you have in the comments section below. I've been your boy Anubis, the Gamer Archer. Check me out on Twitch. Link in the box below. If you watch video games, talk about sports, come out in the Twitch stream, ask sport questions. We can talk about sports if you want to. Even if I'm playing a game that has nothing to do with sports, that's cool with me. Follow, click the link tree. Also in the box below that has links to all my channels. My primary gaming channel, my reaction channel, my comic book channel, as well. Ways to support the content. I've been your boy. Y'all have a good rest of your day. Y'all stay safe. Beautiful people. I'm out of here. Deuces.